My name is Mamuscia. I'm a consultant with a company called eVisolutions, and my company does mostly BIM modeling, but I've done some BIM content in the past for various systems a long time ago when content was becoming an emerging technology. So for today's session, we're just going to kind of review BIM a little bit. It's meant to be an open discussion, so I'm going to go through some slides, obviously, but if you guys want to interject, talk, discuss, let's just do that. And then also I have a workflow I'm going to show you going from Revit, downloading some BIM objects directly from BIM object site, and then working with an application called Assemble, which is a cloud-based model viewer, content manager. So I'm going to go that and show it on the iPad also as part of the workflow. So this is kind of what I'm going to focus on, again, just talking like we are now, quickly interrupt. BIM and dimensions, which 4D, 5D, 6D, if you're interested. Just some things other people are using BIM for. Content, obviously, sites like BIM Object, BIM Seek. So just kind of show where things are posted if you're not familiar with those those websites. And then again, kind of go through downloading something in Revit, showing the content that's behind it, the information, and then pushing it to Assemble, doing some of the scheduling like you talked about, with specific like schedules, doing some of that automation, QTO, collaborating, and then pushing it to a field application like that. So yeah, just like we're talking about, 2D, that's where majority of it. So how many people still 2D, 3D, 2D? So about half. Okay. So it's where the industry is still primarily focused. Just the problem with that again is you're drawing lines, right? Something offsets. It's not you run the risk of drawing something wrong. Where in 3D it's just it's spatially correct. And what's also big is if you're working in one view and you make a change in BIM or 3D, it automatically updates everywhere else. So if you move a fixture over, every view that's associated with that is done automatically, which is again it just makes sense. And then just sometimes, visually understanding what you're looking at in 3D just makes so much more sense. And I promise you it's faster. Is there a question?
It does put more, the coordination ends up getting put on the design team. The 2D world, you draw lines explicitly ignorant of the third dimension, and it forces the design team to spend more time coordination. So it does end up being more expensive, you end up running more hours, potentially on a BIM project, but it also reduces the hours of field coordination.
Exactly, that's my experience. We spend a lot of time moving things over to visually coordinate, and I'll show a little bit of that, but you're exactly right. In the end, your field coordinated drawing should be your as-built model that you build off of. That's another problem where subcontractors don't follow that because they're on there first, but that's where we're going.
So that was a question I had with BIM is I've heard that coordination doesn't make really sense. That's essentially the collision avoidance piece.
Yep.
Is GC Architect coming back and saying, so we're trying to run everything horizontally above the ceiling, but you got a lot of different systems there. Are they assigning zones of responsibility of areas that give you a no-fly, you're in a no-fly except for this area?
Yep.
And everybody knows where their no-fly
It should.
is?
Yeah, that's another thing, like you do a BIM execution plan, you kind of discuss things like that above ceiling, like you start with your slope pipe and things like that aren't going to alter, and then you just determine your zones. You try to stick to that a little bit, but it's always a challenge.
And you can reference in everybody else's models and see where they are.
Right.
Sure you don't have pipe and cable tray.
Yeah. So this is kind of the definition of BIM as far as the process. It's about BIM is the intelligent 3D model-based process that gives architects, engineers, and construction professionals insight tools to more effectively plan, design, construct, and manage buildings. So just some of the things we were just discussing, but more and more owners are requiring it, specifically like in healthcare and oil and gas and things like that. They want a model, they want to keep and maintain that model, and like you said, they're paying for it already, so they want to leverage it throughout the cycle. A BIM room is basically a coordination trailer where you're sitting there and you're projecting and going through the process. But those are more and more common on job sites. As we just said, create a model, makes less field work, it really does. And you know, some of those changes can be, you know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, I've even seen in some cases.
Well,
Solving it.
definition of BIM is the key to the mindset change, because the people in the EC industry have been drafting since it was done by hand.
Right.
And then AutoCAD became the computer version of drafting. This is not drafting, this is modeling. And you have to change that mindset, and you typically have to get a person that runs that modeling software that has a little bit more than just a drafter's type.
Absolutely. Some
You know,
of the best
they have
modelers
to be
I've
able to
seen are
understand
field
Yeah.
people. People
Yeah.
who have done plumbing,
Yeah.
ductwork, and the install, because they, I mean, I'll admit, when I started, I was more in software and construction space, and I got a lot of business in mechanical and plumbing, and, you know, I'd make turns and like, that fitting doesn't exist. You know, because you're trying to solve a coordination issue, and and that's where you get the bad work, and you know, that's a problem also. For sure. But yeah, speaking of fabrication, you know, the models are becoming more valuable just to actually fab parts and go right to site. So we're seeing that as a current state. The 3D catalogs. Smart objects, we're just talking about that, they're becoming more and more prevalent. So we'll kind of go through and view some of those things. Do people who downloads objects now or uses them quite frequently? Which sites do you guys use?
Access has great tools for
Manufacturers'
BIM.
hosted sites.
Okay. What's that?
You download a good one, modify it a few times,
Oh,
and
okay.
then change the parameters and
Okay.
use it.
Okay. There's also some pretty cool tools that you know, kind of constantly update your objects, so your library is consistent, you know, at work, which is, you know, you don't want something that's outdated or doesn't exist anymore.
So we tend to, and I don't know if in New York, Renee, but it's probably similar to us in Toronto, but we tend to avoid using manufacturers' BIM families, because for a couple of reasons. One is, as the lady said, they're full of all kinds of information that you don't need, which makes
Right.
the model a lot bigger.
Absolutely.
But the other thing is, if you are not speccing out a particular product, if you're trying to leave it open and you're just doing
Right.
a specifications type spec,
Yep.
then you're putting, you know, a product that has a name that belongs to somebody on your project. So we avoid that. We have our own symbols, our own, you know, our own families to avoid exactly that.
Okay. You ever replace them after the fact? If it is
No.
spec in? No. Okay.
I mean, we actually, we got called out on a GSA project because we downloaded someone else's content and it said created by in the bottom of the parameters, and it needs to be an open source spec.
Okay.
So I would say that, you know, depending on what market you're working in, just be careful what you are pulling down.
Sure.
Because if you scroll far enough down the parameters list, someone's going to claim ownership for building that content.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Okay, yeah, just back to kind of model versus 2D. As I was saying, you know, the 2D is coming from the model, so just keep that in your head. That the 2D information is created from that model, whether it be looking at, you know, an elevation, cutting a section, just looking at different areas, it's coming from the model. So again, things move, everything updates.
So when you look at like a section view of a door, and you want specifically like a HID reader model, you know, or RP40 or whatever, it's going to look like that. But when you go to 2D, the challenge with it that I always find is now it's just this little dark sliver on the wall, and the contractors, you know, just can't see the stuff.
Okay.
So
But
is there a way to articulate to like a standard?
It has a different view, different view setting.
Right. There's different levels of detail that you can see.
Symbols that we think.
Where that's call outs.
Standards all.
Yeah, and that'd be kind of an example of this, like, right, you have a 3D model, you have different labels or symbols that represent those objects. And then also within Revit, you have, it's called the level of detail, so you can go low, high, if you want more of that finite.
The one thing that we want to do is a lot of the on-door assets, like an HID reader that goes on a door, you can't really attach it to another object unless you change out that door. Is there a solution for that, or is there any?
Not that I'm aware, unless they're just
Because most of it's
independent
walls,
objects.
ceilings, and floors. You know,
Right.
you can't really-
Right,
attached to another
Exactly. You could
object.
change, it's called the host, maybe,
Okay.
you know.
So you're going in there and editing the architect's model then?
The object.
The object?
Yeah, right, you could change that.
Okay.
I think. And then again, you know, when you have two objects or families that you're creating with, you know, your own specs, it's just, again, it's not a square like a block in AutoCAD. It just has a robust amount of information that you guys can leverage, or everyone in the project can leverage, which is the big deal. And again, I want to show kind of how we can leverage those and see all the different information. And this is something too you can spec in an object, right? You know, like we need to see X, Y, and Z as part of the object because we want to use it downstream in some other application. It's not always one model, right? It can be a series of models that collectively, you know, make up your BIM project.
For the largest projects, there's really no other way.
Correct. Right. Yeah. It's you can't put it all in one. That was the goal 10 years ago. Like there's going to be one model that everyone's going to work from, and the computers really can't handle it. So people are doing their individual disciplines. You know, sometimes it's areas that are broken apart. So a lot of different.
And maybe you can talk to this, but one of the challenges that we also ran into is every different architectural firm that we work with has different sets of rules.
Right.
You know, different layers,
Yeah.
different everything.
Yeah.
And so that's very expensive for small firms.
Sure. Yeah. You know,
I
BIM
would
doesn't really use layers unless you're exporting stuff, so that kind of addresses it. But yeah, getting a template or something you're familiar with, so they work with it is.
Yeah, because we may work with 20 different architects in a year.
But there's like an AIA standard too. Shouldn't they be following?
They don't necessarily follow it, and you don't have control over that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Sorry, did I mishear that? I know there are AutoCAD AAA standards. Are there Revit AAA standards
No,
now?
not really.
Oh, sorry. You got aside for a second.
I was just going to say that the same is true with AutoCAD. Each architect did their drawings in whatever way, you know. Sometimes yes, following standards, but not always. They have to live with it.
Right.
But you have your own files with AutoCAD, you don't with Revit, because you're logging on and using somebody else's database.
Not necessarily though, no, because once you set up, each company can have their own standard template. So once you've made your template, the only thing you need from the architect is just a reference point. So once they tell you what the reference point is, you can use whatever your template is.
Yeah.
It's actually easier than AutoCAD in that aspect because you don't have to worry about layer naming conventions, line weights, pen weights, all of that all goes away because now it all becomes defined within your template.
Teach me Revit, Obi-Wan.
Well, I mean, we've been doing it as long as, and we've been doing it probably 10 years now when Revit 1 first came out. I mean, the first 3-4 jobs, yeah, you're going to take an absolute beating on. But we're now turning out jobs 40-50% faster that, depending on the client, we're either becoming more cost competitive or we're turning greater profits.
Yes, setting of sheets and views and all that stuff is.
It's all instantaneous.
Right.
Yeah.
You're just dragging
When
it.
we
It's
first
template.
started, and we're actually using the Revit product, they couldn't even see our
Right.
products on their plans, because our conduit was so small
Right.
compared to like HVAC that we just disappeared from the models.
Yeah. It's curious just why you said that. When you guys are modeling, are you ever modeling conduit, or is it just to a certain size?
Depends on, so in the BIM execution plan, we would define roughly conduit sizing.
Okay.
We tend to not model anything under 2.5 inches.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
see,
typical.
everything
That's
we
pretty
do is
typical.
under 2.5.
Right.
Right, so it's not modeled.
Right.
So it just, it just goes
Yeah.
away.
So basically, you use notes on your 2D plan view or in specifications or both to know, not shown, but you're going to write conduit for all this.
Right.
It's a schedule.
It's all means methods,
Yeah.
contractor.
Right.
I did want to touch back on one thing. I wanted to make sure I understood what was being said. Just so you said that you get the BIM model from the architect, and then each trade basically uses it to develop their own modeling of their own systems.
Yep.
But is there a way that when these MEP firm, electrical firm, et cetera, they all start sending that back, their models, that then it becomes coalesced into a single model
Right.
for the architect? Is this like a
There's two ways. I'll show you, but actually it's right here. So you obviously can do it in Revit directly if it doesn't.
But then also, if we're working in our own model, how do we make sure we're doing that collision avoidance?
That's what I'm going to show like right here in Navisworks. So yeah, that's what I call little BIM, just model coordination, right? That's low hanging fruit. I mean, if you're modeling, other people are modeling, you should be looking at your models together and solving those issues before you're in the field. Obviously, just visualization, the 3D aspect of, being able to look in a room, cut a plane for everyone to better understand, because, some people just can't, visualize 3D information. I mean, you guys all can, you're experts, but sometimes. But some things can get misinterpreted, right? So I just wanted to point this out too. I kind of touched on it, but this is part of some BIM execution standards. It's called level of development. It's by BIM form. So you can just kind of see the progression of different areas. Think of level 100 as just a mass, and level 500 as as built. So usually it's around 300 is where everyone you aspire to model to. But I've seen high level, like in healthcare, level 500 type models with everything. So, for equipment and fixtures, sometimes 300 just might be that box where 500 has the actual connection points. So that all comes into play with coordination for sure. And other things you have to think about are like access. How are you going to get? How are you going to fix it? How are you going to manage it? So we do. Blockout spacing. Some of the object providers are doing that now too. They realize, hey, if the motor's on this side, we've got to have a space to service it on. And again, early on when I did coordination, you were just putting pipes right next to it, and how are you going to get there? Oh, yeah. So that's always big. So this is an application called Navisworks. Is anyone familiar with Navisworks? Okay. So it's a software that collects models, or what I call federates them. So, you can have your mechanical, you can have your plumbing, structural, you bring it all in there. And then on the left here, you set up, it's called clash detection sets. So if I want to look at my structural versus all my mechanical, make sure there's no conflicts there. You just set up the different trades looking at one another. And it's not the funnest process, but you just kind of go through the model and clash 1, clash 2, and try to talk about it, communicate, figure out how to solve those issues as you're working.
You can though minimize if you like the person who's modeling, like the people who are actually doing the work modeling stuff. If you do things, if they model stuff in a good way, you can minimize these clashes a lot. So for instance, I've seen models where plumbing pipe, when I do a cross section, might be at an elevation of 10 feet. 11.46 inches or something.
Right.
Nobody installs a pipe like that,
Right.
So if you do things in a methodical way and place things where it makes sense at 16 feet or 16 and a half feet, that starts to minimize this, because if everybody's looking at those cross sections, seeing where everybody is placing right from the get-go, you're going to minimize these clashes. If you wait till the end, you're going to have a nightmare.
Right. Yeah. That's. I don't know. We were talking a little bit about just that ceiling space, and kind of like saying this is going to be from 15 to 16 feet, 14. And try to stay in that space initially, and that makes the process obviously go a lot faster. But yeah, I've seen some. Yeah. Modeling to the 32nd. That's not going to work.
Is Navisworks free, or do you have to pay for it?
There is a free version to view. So if someone like your GC or
you can't
architect
do the collision stuff.
You cannot. There are free tools out there. One's called Tekla BIM site.
Spell it, say that again.
Tekla BIM site. So it'll read models. It's free.
Tekla,
Tekla.
Tekla BIM.
Site.
That's a GHT.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a free version of the full Navisworks.
Correct. It's all cloud-based, so you can put models in there. It's all. I mean, if you're familiar with Navisworks, it's fairly similar, just a little bit more. But if you're working and you don't have Navisworks, it's a great way to kind of just see how things are progressing and check for mistakes as you're working. And yeah, just the visualization I just threw. Not the prettiest rendering, but 3D view of that. So then there's this idea of what I call big BIM, or, again, leveraging the model or the information in that model for a variety of different things throughout construction and after. And again, that's what we'll kind of touch base on, is creating something, dropping it, and making it accessible to, the owners, FM teams, maintenance management teams, because that's really what you want, right? You don't want them to have to, go back to 2D, find the label, go find the spec, or, the catalog. So, again, we'll show kind of how that is beginning to become more automated. And then, anyone done any other Ds besides just 3D? Which?
We've taken it straight through to 6.
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Yeah, so 3D is obviously, the model and leveraging it there. 4D is linking schedule information to the object, so you can kind of visualize the construction process. 5D is estimating takeoff, which, in security thing, just counts is really valuable. Conduit lengths, if they're there, that's really valuable.
Isn't there okay, so counts. Usually we want the contractor to do their counts because it's really on them to make sure they're covering the project.
Okay.
And if we're providing for that for them, and something didn't get coded right in this, now it's on us. They're gonna be looking at us. I'm not against making schedules.
Right.
But I am against giving them, hey, supply, 65 HID.
But that's what I'm going to show you. Basically that 5D is your schedule. There's no difference.
But we've created notes to cover our ass.
You can still do that, right?
They still have to.
Yeah, even
You
though,
call them sheet notes, you call them C-way.
yeah, because we actually will total up the number of cameras on the
Right.
schedule.
Yeah.
But we say it's the contractor's responsible for the quantities.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Are these your Ds or are these industry?
That's pretty standard. Yeah, that's an industry standard definition. Maybe 60 is interpreted a lot of different ways.
That's the one I'm most interested in all of it.
Right.
And how we can apply this in real life and have life cycle management,
Yep.
and even go further into security operations incorporation and event modeling and all that. So
Yep.
One of the projects we're working on, they require us to have level of design, like 300, 400 level, because then the maintenance will use something like Maximo.
Yep.
And have all the data pulled in, so all that data that you design, so BAB box has the manufacturer model, service type, filter size.
Yeah.
They use that for maintenance, so they don't have to recreate it.
Right. And that's the big thing. Again, you're not recreating it or dumping a spreadsheet or managing a spreadsheet of all that information. It's provided from the model. It can be updated in the model or
But
application.
that LOD has to be agreed on at the beginning.
Sure.
Yeah,
Right.
true, and then the other thing is, again, it comes into, where are you getting your models from? How well is the data on them?
Sure.
And so I can see where that slows down, at least initially.
Yeah.
You have to vet every model before you put it in, because we're truly going back to the
Absolutely.
like garbage in, garbage out.
Yep. There's some new tools coming out that do some model auditing, making sure certain parameters are populated before, you hand it off. Was there a manufacturer or model number implemented in that part? And then,
So, go ahead, Lon, I'm sorry.
Okay, I was getting to your point earlier about limiting the size of things relative to modeling. So given that, how do you deal with the security devices and conduit and stuff within your packages?
For us, we we minimize conduit sizes depending on what we need. We developed all our own content because we got to the point it just didn't make sense. So we made all our own content and we used our symbols that we're familiar with. Where we've taken it a step further, where we have 3 levels of LOD, because projects that we work on, there's this confidentiality about stuff going out. And the reality is that Department of Buildings inspectors don't need to know what the widget is. They just need to know there's a widget. So we have card reader detail going to the contractor. We have high-level detail feeding into Maximo facilities management. The building permit set that we share with everyone is just a circle with a key code. So you need the key code to know what the device actually is. But again, it's all in that upfront. If you're halfway through a project and you need to change something, you're screwed. You can just forget your profit on the job. So when we do, like when we start projects now, we literally have an all-hands meeting just to develop what the BIM plan is going to be. And that could be a 2-day workshop, just where everyone's at the table having those discussions. The other thing I would say with our experience with BIM is we generated all our own content, and we learned this the hard way because content that we developed, an architect actually gave to another consultant, and then they turned it back to us on another project. So we now actually in our content embedded prepared by Overat Partners because it's our proprietary content that we've built. So just be aware of that there's a lot of trust in it also, that what you put out there now, if it's good content, people are going to take it. So a lot of our back engines that we built in, all of our scheduling, we've pulled out of our content that's publicly shared and resides in separate applications.
So 2 questions there. So when you say prepared by, does that essentially give you a copyright to that?
Depends on what you set up at the start of the project. Our legal team has reviewed it back and forth, and it depends on what you started at the start of the project.
And then the other thing would be is so if you're not releasing all of that high-level content to the contractor, but the contractor now has responsibility to create a BIM as-built, at some point in time you have to release that to them.
Oh, absolutely.
And are they signing like an NDA and that they are not going to use it for their own purpose? Because again, the biggest thing about integrators is they're some of our biggest competition because they all want to call themselves consultants. So
I would say the realm that our firm works in, what we're starting to see is less of a design bid build because of BIM. It's really getting more design build because of BIM. So a lot of those relationships I think are changing. And I think it's something that our industry is going to have to adopt to at some point.
I've heard that the argument is that we're going to go, BIM should take us away from design build from the contractor side because it has to be so well done up front for coordination that it should avoid this. You've got to have everything on the paper before they start the construction on the project. You're saying just the opposite.
Yeah.
The contractors are saying, oh, it's a door, it's an access door.
We're seeing more and more large projects, so aviation transport, those type projects, where once you've gotten through schematic, the contractor's in the room with us doing clash detection workshops.
Exactly, we're doing joint ventures like that, so they're looking over their shoulder and making sure that content is as much as they want.
So the question I had is, when I started consulting in 2000, I thought CAD was voodoo black magic because when I was a sales rep, engineer, and they started using all these terms and stuff, and I come out of the hair on fire. And then about 2 years into being a consultant, because I've been trying to find subs and stuff, and it wasn't working well, I invested $1,500 for AutoCAD Lite, best investment I ever made, half for the software, half for a 2 or 3 day training class. And now we're just moved to full CAD, because a lot of what we've done has been able to suffice in Lite. Now we need some of the capabilities from full CAD. So that would be a question is as firms, smaller firms especially, it's a big bite of money to go into BIM. Is there like that progression that we can make?
There is like a Revit Lite also, and now Autodesk has moved to a subscription model.
Yeah,
so it's
on my
a couple $100 a month or something like
That's
that.
gotten a lot cheaper.
Yeah, it's gotten cheaper.
How much a month?
I think it's like 200.
Yeah, and if you pay up front, you get a discount on it too, so for the year.
So the cost has become, our experience has been the costs are coming down. You just got to watch your hardware. So you're not going to run it on a Windows 10 tablet. You're going to run it on, but I've seen people who have I got the light version, and then they try to fire it up and it craps out on them.
You have trouble with hardware.
We're finding with AutoCAD.
Can I take a picture of that?
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
If we use, with AutoCAD, if we use off-the-shelf gaming computers,
That's
we're pretty much, and will that suffice for BIM for them?
pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is just, obviously we're talking Revit mostly, but you just know there are a lot of different applications that leverage models and can use. So those are just kind of some of the different ones I've experienced or seen throughout the stages of construction. Big question about I know it's a lot of different logos. Yeah.
If I may, to your question, be very careful with the decision to buy light versus full blown because there are very serious limitations on what you can do with light, especially plugins and add-ins.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I don't think you can load add-ins.
That's why we have to go to full CAD for.
Yeah.
For my
It's a
fire site,
substantial difference
my
in
ad is
cost.
for alarm cat. Well, we're doing
All right, so I'm going to move over to just objects and content, show a little bit of that, and then I'll jump into kind of my workflow. This is a quote I don't know where I found or got, but you're telling me it's not, you know, you're not as likely to have the actual object in your specs or in your design, so a little different, but, you
I mean,
know.
it'll look like a camera, you just won't be Axis's camera.
Right.
It'll be our camera,
Right.
like our fictitious camera.
Right. So, if you're interested in content, it sounds like most people have been to BIM object before. As I said, okay. So, yeah, I'll just open it up here quick, and for those of you that have never seen it, just go ahead.
And is this, Martin, is that like a collaborative site where they expect you to upload your stuff?
A couple different ways. I think it does work like, you know, Apple's App Store. If you load your own content, it has to go through a series of checks, so the content's not heavy. You know, that's one thing I've seen of all, like, you know, certain manufacturers just making objects and throwing so much shit in there that, like, you know, I don't care. You know, and that it makes models like hard to use because they put so much detail in there that really no one uses. So I think BIM object does a pretty good job of filtering, you know, what is necessary. And again, I think there's other tools. I think it's called Unifier, kind of strips down the parameters you want to see or not see, which is pretty valuable. Alright. So again, I'll just browse, and you can see up here, you've got different ways to quickly sort the information. So if I want electronics, and then go down to something like security, you can see kind of the list of by manufacturers, you know, different types of things that you can quickly, you know, start to add to your individual library. And then I'll show you here in a minute in Revit directly, there's just as example, BIM object, you can have it as an add-in where it kind of browses to the site and you can directly download it into your models as you're working. And what's nice too is that if there's an update to the object you're using, it notifies you so you can replace them.
So where does the BIM object cloud version reside?
These right here, that's on BIM object's site.
So do they do
It's a free service.
hosting or
They're hosting it.
Microsoft or
They're working with these companies to host the content, create content, and it's free to the world.
Seek doesn't exist anymore,
Right.
so they want
Right,
to
Seek, exactly. Seek is
they're manufacturer, you pay to host your content.
It ain't free, I just got a check for 3 years. Right.
It's free to download, not free to host, right? Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. The reason I ask is dealing with people's security systems, we generally like to verify the security of the host place.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I was asking because like, I'm not sure a cloud application. I'm just, yeah, I know there's obviously different
You have a
regulations.
secure front door and the back door is
Right.
propped open because somebody goes to smoke, sort of stuff, so.
Can I use this on PDF?
No. Well, you'd have to have it into Revit. BIM object works with AutoCAD, Revit, SketchUp, and ArchiCAD. You could download, create your PDF. So yes.
So one of the things we get, again, I do fire and security, is on the fire guys, we get a lot of stuff that's been done in SolidWorks and exported to CAD.
Okay.
It is freaking, I mean, a letter, like a capital E probably has 1,000 segments on it, you know, it's just ugly.
Yeah.
Is there any way to, when we get that, to maybe, does BIM allow us to create an object from SolidWorks?
Oh, sure. Yeah. You could. There's a couple different ways to do it, but you know.
It isn't currently true.
Right. Sometimes
It's just packages it.
Yeah, you could create it as a DWG object, drop it in, possibly make a family out of it, a generic model, but yeah.
Because we're a family, you extrude it, you know, and assign material properties and stuff to it.
And this is another smart BIMs, another library. Okay. And then just taking that further, like I said, objects can have all the spec information, so if you're in the field, you can possibly access that through maybe the application itself and bring up all the information related to it.
So in order to have a generic one, you either build your own, like these guys did, build your own template, it just says.
I mean, you could take the Revit camera and just call it what, your own, and start there, really.
You can modify and strip load data.
Stuff out.
Make it as slim as possible.
Okay. So again, just another way to apply the model in the field, and that's what I kind of showed here.
So one of the things that would be a question on this, because you're talking about FMS side, is it one directional or bi-directional? Because one of the things I'm thinking is, we've been having all these great discussions about camera and patching them and stuff.
Sure.
Can we update like where the status of the camera's patch is, either in BIM or?
When you say patch, was that like the software on the camera?
Yeah, the software,
Sure.
making sure it doesn't have vulnerabilities
Sure.
on it. And is that something again that you just need to?
Yeah, I'm going to show again the assembly, which you can edit properties in the iPad and push it back if you want to. But like things like Maximo or Economus, it's kind of the same application. It references current object. You can edit some parameters. Like it won't let you change the size of it or anything like that, but the metadata behind the object you can edit really easily. So yeah, just talking about the future a little bit more. We definitely see more applications being able to access if the security allows it. Again, I'll talk cloud a little bit, more VR stuff. Using that same model to walk through, not only looking at the screen, but headsets and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. Possibly, municipalities referencing models, viewing them to know where they need to go quicker. In the field, loading a model of a laser scanner or something like that to set points, help construction, seeing that more and more happening also. And then, yeah, the idea of not having any paper involved, I don't believe that personally, but it's out there.
We miss so much if they don't print it out.
Sure. We hope we save a few trees though. All right, so again, I'm gonna jump into just kind of something quick. I'll show Revit, or sounds like most of you know Revit, so I'm just gonna show Revit, create a section or something quick, drop some objects in from BIM object, and then show Assemble how you can view the model. What's nice about Assemble is you don't have to have Revit or AutoCAD or anything. It just, whoever's created the model can publish it, and anyone can access it and view it and walk through it. All right. So here's my Revit model, which looks like standard plan, right? Good stuff. I've already dropped in a few cameras, which you can see. Like, this one actually gives you your field of view. I don't know if it's accessible, but if I look at this object, which is a Canon camera, and you can see all the metadata behind it. That's not too detailed, but detailed enough. So in my next video, we'll show how we can, break it out by division if we want to, Omni class. When you guys kind of sort or create schedules, is there a certain schema you follow, or is it just kind of cameras, doors?
Point number.
What's that?
Unique point number.
Oh, point number, okay. Rooms, things like that. So if I want to add an object, let's see if I can do this. So this is the add-in where I can go directly to that BIM site.
No.
Those are questions. So if I access BIM object, it connects.
I guess so.
So I'll go back on the page here and just drop something else in here. And I don't want framing, so I'll go to electronics again. So again, motion detectors, cameras, just select this quick. So if I look at it, review it, it's what I want, I simply just have to download it, and it's going to be accessible directly in Revit as part of this project.
Now, is that a plugin you installed for Revit?
And it's an old part, so it's going to update quick.
Do you ever have any issues where you're using a version of Revit that's older than the BIM object? Or that's newer
Good
than
question.
BIM
I
object?
don't know how that.
There's always backwards compatibility issues with Revit that we have.
Yeah, you can't go backwards.
Like I'm guessing your template for your company's like from the oldest version of Revit you
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
Yeah,
All those upgrades.
We have multiple
Yeah.
template versions, yeah, depending on what the thing
Another type
said.
of work surface.
Well, let's see, this one, let's see, I don't know.
And then also, how do you identify the height of that camera if you were to install on the wall?
Sure, so you just select it, and currently this
Okay.
elevation's 4, which is too low, right? So I'm just gonna change that. But you see how the symbol's there, I changed the elevation. If I go to this elevation view, that's not yours. Come on. I can see the camera right here, and its height. So I've added a couple different cameras. So if I wanted to change it, same thing, I can work in this view if I want to. I don't have to be in plan, but that elevation is captured. So you have that ability to change or modify and work in.
And then when you're inside the ceiling plans, it knows to, or I guess it would be a function of the object to know whether it attaches to the bottom of the ceiling inverted. or
Correct.
upside down.
Correct, yeah, it's the host.
Okay.
So that's what we got going on here. It's just go to 3D now.
And then with the recessed cameras, make sure you put the clear
Right.
zone on top.
Right, exactly.
Otherwise we'll dump right through
But
it.
I'm assuming it's a function of the object
Yeah.
where it meets that ceiling line, so
Yeah.
then you would see that container.
Which plane it attaches to. yeah.
Right, okay.
Okay, so again, I just made a quick, building here with a couple different views or different objects. I got, a door placed. I got a motion detector on the inside, a couple different cameras. So I'm going to show you how Assemble works. So Assemble's a cloud-based, again, BIM content management tool. So you don't have to have Revit, you don't have to AutoCAD. It publishes to the cloud. So see different projects I have here. So I'm going to go to my, let's call it a test project. I can publish sheets too if I want. So you're going to be able to see the two in conjunction if you want to. And then what it also does, which is nice, is it captures versions of the model. So as design changes, it's going to visually identify everything that's been modified. So again, counts, it could be counts, it could be going from basic camera to a more descriptive one. It'll identify family type names. So having that quick insight without having to go to a multiple of drawings is pretty valuable.
And is this a for-fee service that you?
This is a.
So when you say publish to the cloud, it's your own cloud account that you're publishing to.
Correct.
Not
yeah.
a generalized
No,
account.
no. I'll show you that in a minute. So it takes seconds really to push it up. It's a great model view too for large base models. So go here. So this, just like you said, you have a dedicated your own site, and then based on permissions, you see different projects. So if you're an admin, you can see everything. If you're working on one particular project, you'd only see that. So I see a couple different projects. So if I access my BIM object, see the model there. If you have multiple models like Navisworks, you can federate them. So maybe the building has 2 security models, you can bring them together and look at all that information together. And then what it also does, it captures views of the data. So if you're thinking of it as your schedule as a view, so if you just want to look at hardware, you can filter everything else off, doors, walls and ceilings, and turn off the structure. You can do that. So we'll kind of show you that also.
Back to cyber. So I've got a great program out there. How do you know the level of security that you have not opened up Pandora's box? Cloud.
Right, that's why I was asking you the question earlier. I mean, I've worked on government projects, they're like, who cares? And then you go to Lockheed Martin and it's like don't touch,
You're on here, you send me an email, the whole scheme of things is, how do we know?
The thing that's interesting about this is you're not actually sharing the model. So you can't manipulate it or change it, but there is information that can be sensitive, obviously. And
But I'm on the website. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
How do we know the cloud companies are?
Sure. I mean, they have a disclaimer here. They're not how they manage
It's
the
hosted in Russia, it's okay. It's a crack.
It's a concern. I mean,
There's
there's
a backup in mainland China, I'm kidding.
Yeah. I mean, but you think about it, I mean, we're all on email, right? It's kind of the cloud. I mean, it's an interesting space right now for sure.
I don't know if this is outside the topic of your discussion, but how does, what's the, like, the central model, detaching, attaching to central model, linking, is that kind of similar to X-Reps and AutoCAD?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay.
We can you want to after this?
Okay.
So I'm trying to understand what you're saying. So this is a model like you could get from the architect, you could load it up into this?
Exactly. And that's why
and then you can do basically BIM work from this. But it's
you can't manipulate geometry, you can report it. And that's why I want to show. So all the information that we've been talking about and wanting to leverage, this is a great facilitator for to look at data, change it possibly. You know, like if originally you just put in a basic camera and you know what you want to spec it, you can change the model number, link it to something else. It pulls all that information across. So you can see, I didn't do anything, but I've got the ceiling, my different security devices already organized in this view.
So this is more meant for review with the owner, for example.
Possibly, yeah. Or, you know.
It's not a design tool, it's a review tool.
Correct.
Did you mention that it was free?
It's not free.
It's not free.
So, but you know, you can select something like that, you know, the camera. I can isolate, you know, where it is. So it takes me to that camera. I can go right to it if I want to. So it gives you that quick, back up a little bit here.
Can you give access to your clients then? So if you're not going to give, they can't do the model, but they'd like to know there's 30 cameras in the job?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's what's nice about
And
it.
if you're paying the fee, they can view it for free?
Exactly.
If you give them the rights to...
Right,
Okay.
right. So it's a limited number of users. So it's mainly a GC tool, but you know, there's obviously, you know, subcontractors are trying to use it too.
So if I'm starting out and I'm subcontracting my BIM work out, because again, I'm not willing to make that additional investment in the learning curve, but I want to be able to review it, so you know, I go to Navisworks, so I can do this. I can't add cameras to this.
No.
Okay, so I'm not going to be able to manipulate, add devices or anything like
So
that.
you can change the metadata behind it. Again, I'll show you, we can create different views of it, but yeah, it's a reviewer tool, quantity extraction, just easy BIM access. You know, some people don't want to know Revit.
So let me kind of just run it anybody. So 2D, EEF, I showing devices, and I basically tell my BIM sub that I want to use these models of cameras. I go and review, but now I want to change this one camera to a different model. I can do that.
You can rename it. There's ability to kind of like add comments to it, so you can select all the cameras and say these are, you know, wrong type. But there's the ability to, again, assign additional information off the objects. And then, as I said, it also can publish sheets. So if I look, I've got a couple sheets published here. When I select an object, it'll filter down. Oh, that after shoot. Let's try this again. Maybe I lied here. Should identify that. Anyway, normally if I select something, it'll take me to the sheet too. And I just did that this morning. So just know they are linked. So if you select something, you can look at the 2D sheet or any sheets that are associated with the object. Okay, so as I said, you know, you select any camera, all that meta that was in the object originally is available. So in here, you know, if you wanted to see some additional information, you have that ability. So if I wanted to actually open up the spec sheet related to that camera, it's going to hyperlink to that object directly there. So you see how that works. But then also, any of these properties can be used to basically create like your same schedule. So if I wanted to create, you know, all I'm going to do is create a grouping that looks at that information first, and then maybe the model number. And it's going to reorganize the model based on that metadata, so you can see, you know, the different things organized that way. And what's also nice, you know, we were talking about model quality and things like that. So if that information is missing, it shows up as not assigned, right? Which walls won't have a manufacturer, but if someone hadn't filled out that information, you know, you could quickly isolate it and see what was missing. Now, in addition, any of those meta columns can be used to, just like you would create a schedule, leverage that information. So let's just focus on the cameras. It's on the count. I can add unit, total pricing in here. And then if I have, a rough number for that part, say $500 for this camera, it's going to give me that total calculation. And you can see I can start to build a takeoff. Now, if more, go ahead.
Navisworks won't let you do that, right?
No.
That counts and the metadata does not travel to Navisworks.
Some does, but it doesn't, you can't edit it like this. And then if more cameras occurred, that pricing would quickly modify, or doors or windows, however you want to,
So if you're working in this assemble and you decide you need a new field in there, something you didn't anticipate?
Correct. So that's what these are, the properties.
Yeah.
So we were talking about, just adding.
Can you add a field basically?
You can. Yeah, so, we see it as used as a communication too, like, wrong info, I just add that. And then all I'm gonna do is create a new listing, to communicate, like, I have issues in here.
Is that bidirectional? Will that field travel back to BIM?
All model properties will go back and forth, assemble properties do not. So, but they're persistent from version to version. So they live currently only in assemble. So if you're doing like, schedule, you can tie, schedule activities, get your own cost codes, breaking apart by location really quickly, override the color so it's visual. So what I'm going to do right now is, oops, I didn't want to do that. I'm going to go back to my view, and I'm going to save this as a view. So I'll call this a camera view. So again, the information is organized by type, counts. And now, when I go to, I'll project this on the screen here. I want to try that. Okay, so this is my iPad up there. So I got the same BIM object test project, and you can see the camera view I just created. So I can access that. Got the same, viewing tools. So, just as we organize it, we've got the different types, and then I can select something like this camera, and then load the properties, and it gives me all that same, metadata that for a guy in the field can access and look at. And then same thing if they want to, drill down to something further, like the project. I can open up the spec sheet. It opens up and opens that same content.
Installation manual.
Yep, exactly. So smarter models.
As far as has that been updated, so it's got to look at the firmware updated.
Pretty cool.
So how much, what's the subscription?
And that's not, that type of stuff isn't available in the Autodesk 360 that comes in like this.
No, I mean they have like Field 360.
Yeah.
It's got some similarities. Oh, for sure, sure. But yeah, it's almost kind of based on projects and stuff. But this is definitely where it's going. Leveraging the model, maintaining that information, letting guys in field do this versus walk around with a set of plans and a binder and carting that around. So. And last, I'll just show you real quick since I added that camera. It has the ability to show the changes between the versions, as I said. So if I made changes, which in this case, I modified the ceiling, it's showing what's been added, removed, and then quantity changes. So I changed the walls, which
It tracks who made changes, so if somebody else goes into it.
Doesn't identify who did and what changed.
Oh.
So in green it's gone up in quantity, red it's gone down. So just another tool within the application.
So in this scenario, you just add one model where you add your cameras to it, but if you have a bunch of linked models and for your backgrounds you add to that, you just put all the links together into
Correct.
here.
You can publish that, or you can look
Compiles
at
it itself.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. And then I think that was kind of my spiel. Any other further questions or comments?
Do you know any good tutorials on actually designing families or modifying families?
There's some good, I don't have any, yeah.
Google them or? are there
Yeah,
sites?
I mean, there's some better ones than other. I'll see if I have a list of bookmarks together, to cars, I'll shoot it over. But yes, there's definitely better ways to do it
There
than
are other
others.
guys that know how to do that. They just don't want to bug them for.
Oh, they don't want to document it?
No, it's just that it's easier if I do it myself.
Understood.
So what does your company do?
Well, I do two things. One is I do consulting, but primarily construction modeling. So GCs hire me to build, rebuild in Revit or their application of choice, help with coordination, standards, things like that. I did that for about almost 10 years. I still do it. I've kind of moved away back into software for Assemble. Because it's great. I mean, it's what I like about Assemble, and again, I know I work for them, but it's just an easy tool. So anyone can get into BIM, again, manipulate data. I've worked for other companies where it was BIM-related takeoff and stuff, where you have to be a scientist to get it to work, and it's like, it just makes, I love it because it's just open-ended like Excel, right? It's like, well, what do you want to do? Or what do you want the data to do? And because it's a database that you can query and look at it, it's so powerful.
Yeah, we've been looking for a resource to help us figure out what the options are.
Sure, that's
to set
I can
up
do a needs
companies.
assessment, or I know people that do that too, that
Okay,
are great.
so yeah, I like.
That's what's great. I mean, kind of been BIM since 2000. I used to work for a European company called Graphisoft, ArchiCAD, kind of like right when Revit started kicking off, and it was fascinating back then. Like, same thing. You're like, you need 3D. You don't need 3D. Like line weights and colors, and it's just so much faster. And then Revit just took off.
So what's the state today of, I think a lot of times we get in, at least I do, to projects where it's old buildings, they have no.
Sure.
I mean, it's just, or what's, I'm thinking stuff traits, but I know I've had a few projects where the owner, contractor, somebody come in, kind of do a stereo, that's the best way, a stereo scan of the building.
Yep.
Create a BIM model.
Yep.
And then either we use BIM or we go to 2D or whatever.
Right.
Is that pricing going down?
That is going down, but it's still not. I mean, to remodel is not cheap.
Is that what you meant when you said you did that for GCs? Is that
No, more often than not, the way it is the same thing. I'm getting 2D information. They're like, we want a model for this project because we want to solve a lot of issues up front than in the field. So I'll take 2D information and point out what's wrong, where we can optimize or make it work, and then a little bit of contents.
Well, I was surprised. I just did a project. It's a 30-story dual tower in Chicago, and I had 1980s hand-drawn original plans.
Wow.
And I reached out. I had a third-party draftsman, create 2D plans for us in CAD because it was all hand-drawn and terribly, And they said to me, "Do you mind if we model it in Revit and then export to 2D?" If it's easier for you, I guess. But it was really surprising to me to hear them say that. I didn't anticipate that.
It's easier for them to do it in Revit and then just.
Well, that's what's so surprising right now. Yeah,
You can trace it.
starting to move into more of a priority.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you the handiest tool I've learned in the last year is PDF import. If you get an original PDF.
Well, you should see these originals.
If it's a scan
You see lots
of
of
the PDF, all you get is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if it's
PDF
generated
import-
from CAD or Revit into
PDF import is quite handy.
Yeah.
Actually, where I find it working is if they haven't locked down their data sheets or their installation manuals, I need to create a diagram. A lot of times I'm pulling the stuff right out of the PDF and then formatting it in format that I want to see.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.